afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be, and welcome to episode 10 of the Introduction to Urban Homesteading series. And breathe. Today we are talking about the reality of urban homesteading and the ever-evolving process. Okay, so over the last 9 weeks, we have been talking about all sorts of different aspects of urban homesteading, etc. And today we are going to get down to a little bit of nitty-gritty when it comes to some serious stuff that people don't really think about. Yeah? Okay, I just want to say hi to Rochelle, Brampton Gardener, and Annette over at Annie's Kitchen and Urban Homesteading. Welcome, ladies. Welcome. So we're going to start off with, hey, how you doing, honey? Suburban Hillbilly is in the house. How you doing, hun? So first off, we're going to be talking about what actually is urban homesteading and self-sufficiency, and what the pros and cons. Let's put it that way. Shall we say the pros and cons? Yeah. Okay. So the theory of self-sufficiency, which is basically urban homesteading, that's kind of what we're going for, entails the self of being enough to fulfill your needs. Self-sustaining entity can maintain self-sufficiency indefinitely. Okay, so what? Gosh, that's like, what? All right, so that's not quite what I was looking for, but okay, that's along the same lines. Yeah, doing good here, honey. Basically, what self-sufficiency and urban homesteading is working towards is being self-reliant on your own food source. So your fruit and vegetables, herbs, that kind of thing, cooking from scratch, doing all the slowing down life a bit, not being as reliant on the shops, not being reliant on grid electrics, being more sort of self-sustainable when it comes down to electrics and power and all of that kind of thing. And yeah, doing as much for yourself as you possibly can. You know, it all goes into, you know, being able to, hi Janine, how are you? Yeah, words are hard today. Can I just say, words are hard. That kind of threw me for a loop, because that was not the answer. I was like, yes, real self-sufficiency is being debt-free, which allows for every bit of your energy and resources to go towards your land and family, having enough land to support you and your animals' needs, living off-grid, and knowing how to maintain your own systems. That's the bottom line. That's the dream, okay? So, but for many of us, we live in an urban environment, and that is not always possible, okay? Now, one big question that is asked is it possible to be 100% self-sufficient? Now, there are two ways of thinking about this. Now, it is possible, but, and here's the but. We are only one human being. And we may have another human being that we share our life with that helps us along the way. We may have smaller human beings around the place that may do some of the work too. But we may not have the skills to do certain things. We may not be able to, for example, process our own animals if that's what we have. So we need to look to be able to pay someone to be able to do that. And so the realities of being self-sufficient, unless you actually live within a self-sufficient community of a bunch of different people with all sorts of different skills that all contribute in that kind of way, what you're looking at, what your self-sufficiency is going to look like, is being able to grow and produce or process food enough that you can actually sell for the other skills that you will need to become more self-sufficient, if that makes sense, right? So, yeah. So it's basically about then having to have cash that you can actually pay for services and products that you can't do for yourself. Okay. That's, yeah. I mean, unless you do have all of the skills, which, I mean, I'll be honest, I do have quite a few skills, but I don't have all of the skills. And so I would have to be looking to be able to have some kind of income coming off what I'm doing to be able to put back into what I'm doing to have some of those things done. So, it's one of the things that you need to look at. So you can't look at it being as all you can do is be as self-sufficient as possible when it comes to urban homesteading. I'll never achieve self-sufficiency. I'm not sure I will. I'll give it a good go. I'll get as self-sufficient as I possibly can be. But see, then we're also limited to things like, well, what about things like the internet? What about things like the internet? The internet is now becoming a very fast thing that we need to have in our everyday lives to be able to keep in touch with people and, that kind of thing. So we need to be able to pay for those bills, and those bills, no matter where you're living, are going to keep coming in for certain things. I mean, you might have land rates you have to pay. You may have rent that you still have to pay. All of these things are really important, For me, it's about fun, saving money, and convenience. I'm in a townhouse. It's just possible, but I'm okay with that. I love being able to go to the store and get my tropical fruit in winter. Exactly. There you go. Not all of us can grow things like tropicals. Not all of us can, and that's okay. But if you're producing something else that you may get an income from so that you can go and buy those tropical fruits, that's all part of the same system. And that's what we're looking at when it comes down to urban homesteading. The other thing is that we need to start looking at what your capabilities are along these lines as well. It's very, very important to see what your capabilities are. It's all very well saying, I can do this and I can do that and I can do something else. But there are only so many hours in the day. There's only so many days in a week, and there's only so many weeks in a year. Let's be completely honest. And probably 60% of what we do when we're urban homesteading is, well, probably 80% of what we do when we're urban homesteading is working with the seasons. Now, if you're out by a couple of weeks, that can completely throw off your entire year. From growing the seeds, growing the food, producing the food, processing the food, and getting it out on the table. So you could be a couple of weeks behind everybody else, and that could throw you off by a couple of months by the end of it. So that can have some kind of, thing. That's what happens when you try to do it all by yourself. Of course, there are people that are capable of doing these things, and they do live a relatively self-sufficient life, and they do live in rural areas, and they do have like full-on homesteads and farms and things like this, but they still have to look at having other people come in to fix tractors and all that kind of stuff as well. So, or at least for parts, if they can fix it. But again, there's only so many hours in a day, only so many days in a week, and only so many weeks in a year. So, you have to understand that you are going to need somebody at some time. I love modern conveniences. Oh, I know, right? Some things you just can't not have. I grew up, Suburban Hillbilly says, I grew up with only 2 light fixtures in the house, otherwise off-grid. I do not want to live without indoor plumbing or without air conditioning again. It was old school, no solar, etc. Exactly. I mean, the property that I had with my kids, there was no air conditioning. The only heating we had was the wood fires that were in each room. We did have electric. It wasn't off-grid because it was on the edge of town. But, middle of summer in Australia, It was a nightmare. I'm not going to lie to you. It was hot as hell. You know, I like air conditioning. I really do. I don't want to not have that, except I don't have that here, which is fun in summer, as it was last year. Yeah, no desire to give them up and go off grid. Yeah, well, exactly. Hi, Janet. Homestead, where you are. It's lovely to see you. Welcome in. Hi, Jamie's Country Living. She's here too. Welcome. So, yeah, so you need to look at what your skill set is. Are there things that you can build on with your skill set? So, for example, you can cook. You can cook certain things, but have you learnt to bake? Can you bake certain things? Can you expand on that into your food preservation? Do you have more than one way of preserving food? Are you able to preserve meat in a way that doesn't rely on freezers? Because sometimes freezers do go down, and sometimes you need your freezers for other things as well. So, I'm doing well, thank you, honey. Oh, thanks, Jamie. Yeah, smash the thumbs up. So, can you start cheese making? Is that going to be a practical thing for you if you're living in an urban environment? Are you going to be able to get hold of milk that is suitable to do cheese making? Simple. That's one thing. And, there are hundreds of different cheeses out there. You might just choose one or two to learn and then leave the others up to the experts, I'm still in the process of building up a more ingredients-based pantry. Yeah, it took me 4 years, hun. 4 years of just buying a little bit here and there with the shopping that was going into building up the pantry. Now all we have to do is, when we look and see that things are starting to drop off a bit, they're the things we put on the list. So we've actually starting to get a bit of a turnover, which is really kind of nice, actually. It really, really is. So, yeah, you need to look at your skills. Are there skills that you are going to be able to learn that are going to be a companion to what you already have? Or are you going to have to learn other skills that aren't natural to you? Some people, they may be really good cooks. They may do all of the preserving. They may do all of that. But do they grow their own food? Are they able to grow their own food? Have they started learning how to garden? Have they started learning how to do these things? They're all things that everybody can do. They are things that you're going to need to learn to do. And if you're doing an open homestead, then the garden is really, really important. That's okay. My skill is eating. Nice. Yeah, mine too. Did you notice? Yep. Yeah, that's a good skill of mine too. Taste testing and quality control, very, very important. So, I'm very lucky with having the partner that I have in Tanny. He is quite handy. He's very capable of putting basic carpentry together and basic projects together. He's very good at doing basic mechanics and changing parts and things that may need to be replaced on the car and that kind of thing. He's very builder orientated. Like he can put together a project with, a couple of bits of string and some gaffer tape, and you're just away. You've got a whole new wardrobe. This kind of guy he is. So that's really cool. And greenhouses with confusing instructions. Exactly. He built that. He's very proud of that. You married a contractor. Very smart. Very, very smart. But see, these are the kinds of, it's the people that we end up with. We have to take their skills into consideration as well, and their willingness to whether they want to be involved. Because sometimes they really don't. They really don't. They might be completely capable of doing all the things you want them to do, but they might not want to be involved in it. And if they don't want to be involved in it, you can't force them. You just got to show them that is worthwhile doing. And that maybe at some point they'll go, if I made you this, would that help? You know? So Annie has a handy husband as well. Awesome. Nana, Lisa, it's so nice to see you. Nana 9 Acres is in the house. So looking at what your skills are and what you might have to improve on or gain. Hey, Dale, how are you, hon? Mr. 9 Acre Family Farms is here too. Jenna says, my husband is very handy and great at upcycling and reusing. Yeah, see, mine too. He is. He's very good at that. He'll look at what we've got and go, yeah, well, I can do that, and do that with it. And it's like, yeah, cool. Crack on, mate. Off you go. I'm not going to stand in your way. Just leave him be to do the things. So, yeah, knowing what your skill set is, seeing if there's anything that you can improve on, you can add to the whole situation, you know, and using the space that you have now, because your dream might be to have a property later on. But if you sell everything now and just move to a property, you may find that you end up drowning, metaphorically drowning, because you just don't have the skills to be able to do that. So being able to use the space that you have now while you're urban homesteading to learn the skills that you may need once you are homesteading is a really good idea. Nana says, I got a pretty handy hubby. He can fix anything I know, right? He's pretty cool. Jamie says, my husband is handy too. Might not win a beauty contest, but he does the trick. I know, right? You know, these pretty boys, I tell you what. Yeah. Sell things you have not used in years. Yeah, there is that. But, you know, that's another side of things. But that's basically what we need to be looking at. We need to be looking at what we're capable of as far as our skill sets are involved. You know, and not just practical hands-on ones either. But sometimes you've got to look at the ones like, what are your organizational skills like? You know, are you good at organizing? Can you get things put together? Can you sort out a routine for yourself? Because this will take a whole new routine, because you now may be working full time and all of a sudden have to, oh gosh, hang on, I'm getting lost. What was I saying? I'm lost. I'm going to have to replay my own video to see what I was saying. Okay. Brampton Gardner says, nope, never moving. We have too much crap. Jamie says he's country guy. Yeah. Annie says, one important tip, don't let anyone bring you down on what you want to achieve. Exactly right there. Yeah. Jamie just says, I just sold a hat press I've not used in over a year. Fair enough. Fair enough. You know? So, yeah, skills, really important, doing the whole skills. Then you got to look at your resources. What are your resources? Okay, what do you have now? And what are you going to need? Yeah. Jamie says we're on a fixed income. We do what we do to survive. Yeah, we will get to finances in a second. But the thing is that the resources part of it. Now, resources are also your time. So that's what I was saying. Yeah, I've got back to it. So if you're having to work full time and now you're going to want to go into self-sufficiency and urban homesteading, you have to realize that there are certain jobs that need to be done on a daily basis. It's not just about going to work. You're going to have to get up maybe half an hour earlier to make sure that you've got everything done for the day that you can get done or needs to be done before you get home. You might have a garden that needs watering first thing in the morning. You're going to have to be out there doing that while you're supping on your first coffee. You know, if you have animals, you're going to have to feed them before you go to work. That's the bottom line, you know. And then when you get home from work, there's things like dinner and getting kids sorted if you've got kids and all of that kind of thing, and doing any of the house chores and things. And then doing it all again because you may need to water the garden again. You may need to feed animals again. You may need to let the animals out, which means that you may not be able to do what you need to do indoors because you need to be outdoors supervising the animals. You know, if you're letting your chickens run free, you may only have 4 of them because you're in an urban environment, but you need to be there. You know, but you need to be there to let them have a bit of a run around before you lock them up for the night. That kind of thing. So, you know, it's all about these things and looking at what resources. You may have a lot of equipment resources at your disposal already. You know, that's really important. So take stock of what you already have. Take stock of what you can use in a different way so that you don't have to purchase anything that you don't necessarily need right now. If you can reuse certain things in a different way. That's why when I do buy a machine for working with, I like to make sure that I've got more than one use for it. So when I bought the crock pot, I made sure that we had one that was not only a slow cooker, but it could roast meat, it could do all kinds of things, and it's even a deep fryer if I really wanted to go there. So, you know, that's something to take in consideration because it's space saving at the end of the day, as well as money saving. Let's have a look. Sorry, jumped the fence. You're right. That's fine. Brampton Gardner says, Dexter's all the animal I'm willing to take care of. Haha. Yep. He's a very cute animal too. Jamie says, eating and bills and taking care of the animals is most important. Exactly. I'm actually looking at not having a job. That's a different story. Oh, wow. Okay. Cool. That doesn't, but I'm guessing by the emoji that that's not by choice. So yeah, but resources, they're not just about tools and equipment and things like that. It's about your time, your resources, your personal resources. Another one of those resources is your energy. What are your energy levels like? Are you going to have the energy and the ability to be able to do the things that you want to do? Do you have disabilities or long-term illness that may stop you from doing certain things? Are you going to have to be very careful about the way you do this? You know, you guys all know I am disabled. There's only a certain amount of hours that I have in a day that are usable. So I have to be very careful about how I use those hours. Because if I use too many of those and I push myself that little bit too far, I may not be able to do anything for the next week. So I have to stick to a routine of one job a day. So yes, that's 365 days a year. And that's 365 jobs, which sounds like a lot. But there's no job in homesteading that is set it and forget it. Whether it's in the garden, whether it's cooking, whether it's preserving food, whether it's, you know, sorting out tools and doing little DIY jobs and little bits of this and that, you think it's all been done. But then you realize, I got to keep doing these things. And I've got to keep doing this. And, I've now got a glut of that. I have to deal with that. Or I have, you know, all of a sudden I have animals I didn't expect to have because I didn't know that someone was sitting on a clutch of eggs, you know. So, you know, it's looking at the things like that as well, to see what you are able to do and being realistic about what you're able to do. Yeah, just do one thing extra per day. Exactly what Dale said. Exactly what Dale said. And if you like, one day, it may just be planting seeds, sowing the seeds. That's it. You know, it may be you just get the housework done that one day, you know, because so eventually what you will find is, like, if you are running a homestead or if you have an urban homestead and it's just you and you are doing, you know, whatever it is that you're doing, or if it's you and your partner or whatever, something's got to give. And you will look at life differently in a lot of ways and see what is the most important. Is it really important that the coffee table is spotless? Or is it more important that the seeds get sown? Is it more important to have a spotless house? Or is it more important to get the other jobs done that are going to keep you going throughout the rest of the year? Mend that fence so that your chickens don't get out or your dog doesn't get out. Is it more important to change? Is it more important to make sure that the beds are done in the greenhouse, or is it more important to do the dishes? You know, you've got to look at what your priorities are. You know, I want pictures of those, Rochelle. I want pictures of those for next week, please. Rochelle's making baby clothes. So, you know, these are the kinds of resources I'm talking about. If you've got physical ailments, if you've got mental health things that can derail you very easily as well, these are all things that you need to take into consideration. You know, I'm someone who is autistic and has ADHD, so I also have PTSD, and I can get derailed quite easily, and it may be just because I get overwhelmed. You know, I see that what needs to be done and I don't know where to start, and sometimes that can be enough to just derail me for an entire day, which it is what it is, you know, but it doesn't help get the things done. So it's, you know, it is what it is, but you've got to look at what your resources are on a personal level, not just a stuff level. Let's have a look. Let's go back a bit. Jamie says, not my choice, trying to work till next year when I can retire. Okay, enough of this. Not about me, it's your life. Oh, sweetheart, it's fine. We're here for each other. It's all good. Suburban Hillbilly says, I'm not a homesteader, I'm a hillbilly. Yay! We love you. Just the way you are, darling. Oh, I'm really glad you're loving the lives, Jamie. I really am. Priority is definitely first. I'll be honest, my house used to be spotless. I miss it. The clutter is driving me nuts. I am exactly the same. My house was spotless. What I used to do is when my kids were little and I had all the foster kids and stuff, my housework got done when they went to bed. I did all of the housework when they went to bed in the main part of the house. There was no point in doing it if anyone was awake, because within 20 seconds of you doing it all, it would be literally neck deep again. So there was no point. So it all got done in the evening, and then I sit down with a coffee on the deck and just breathe. Do you know what I mean? Whereas now I have to pick my tasks. I have to pick what I'm doing. Can I, you know, tidy the living room, or do I take care of the vegetables that are starting to look a little bit sad in the fridge, make something from them, bottle it up, or dehydrate them, or do something with it, freeze something, and so that we're not wasting a lot of veg, which is also money, which we don't want to be doing. Drinking coffee, yes. Hey, Sika, how you doing, honey? How you doing? Where to begin? Hi, Janice. How you doing, hon? Big housework only gets done when it's raining or dark on this homestead. It's more important to grow the food to make those dishes dirty. Yes, I use the dishwasher a lot. Bless you, hon. Yeah, we're still trying to get permission to get a dishwasher put in. Yeah, we're still trying to get permission to get a dishwasher put in because that would make a huge difference to my life. Because I can't stand long enough to do the dishes, so it ends up being an all-day task when I do them about once a week. So, you know, or unless I really, really need them like now. So, yeah. Seeker, derail. Can you train to get past that? And he says she's decluttering, doing a little bit each day, wanting to live a simpler life. Exactly. We all want to do that, you know. One of my biggest issues is that I have executive dysfunction. Okay. So I know all the things that need to be done. I know them. I wrote the lists. Okay. I wrote the lists, every single one of them. There's about 15 lists running around my house right now of all the things that I need to be doing. And then I look at the list and I get overwhelmed and I'm like, I can't do anything because I can't do that. Because I can't do that. Because I can't do that. But I could do that other one, but I can't do that unless I do that, that, and that. And then my head just goes, nope. Nope. Ain't doing any of it. And that's literally how my head will work. So, you know, I have to work past that as well. So it does make it difficult at times. It really, really does. Speaking of dishes, I like when my house is clean, but not enough to waste my time. I mean, spend my time. Yeah. That's it, you know. Yeah, I mean, like, if you guys could see my desk right now, geez, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's a very ADHD way that your brain works doing that. Yeah, it is a very ADHD thing for executive dysfunction to completely derail you and what you're doing. So, yeah. Housekeeping's easy. Just get a wife. Seeker! Good grief. Yeah, my kid doesn't live here anymore, Rochelle. And when he did, it used to take him 4 hours to do the washing up of an evening. 4 hours. Because as it turns out, he is just like his mummy, has ADHD and autism as well. So, yeah. So 4 hours later, a few weeks ago, I had a sink full of dishes. Then it dawned on me that I have a dishwasher in the extension. Janine. Yeah. Yeah, Annie, you tell him. So, yeah, then you got, like I said, you got to look at your resources. What tools do you have? What tools do you need? What equipment do you have? What equipment do you need? What don't you need? Are there things that you have that you don't need that really aren't, that you haven't touched for years and years and years, that they're not really worth having around anymore because they're just taking up space, you know, and you're not using? Can you get rid of them? Can you pass them on to somebody else? Can you lend them out to people? You know, can you hire them out to people? You know, depending on what it is. Oh, dear. Seeker, behave yourself. Don't make me come into chat. So then we've looked at our resources. We've looked at our skills. Now we're going to look at our finances. Now, of course, everyone wants to be debt-free. Okay, everyone wants to be debt-free and not have to worry about the bill, all of that stuff, like mortgages and all of that kind of thing, on top of having to worry about equipment purchases and that kind of stuff. So are your finances going to allow you to be able to buy everything you need straight away, or are you going to have to do it slowly? Because most of us have to start slowly and build up from nothing. As I was saying to Annette earlier, it's taken me 4 years to build my pantry to a stage where we are just replacing things we're using now, but it's taken 4 years to do it. And to put that money aside for every 3 to 4 months, have a purchase that, or put in an order for certain types of things that, you can have a bulk purchase of, so that you have enough. That's going to do you a year or more. And it also saves you money doing it that way. So then, like, I've just taken possession of a 5 kilo bucket of bicarbonate of soda. So, it's that will do us the next couple of years happily, but not everybody can afford to do that. And sometimes you have to put that money aside, and then you have to look at when you can afford to do these things and to just do it bit by bit, So you have to look at what you're able to do financial wise as well, and just try and get all your bills paid off as fast as you possibly can, because that's always going to help you in the long run later on, because it's one less thing to worry about. Okay, so yeah, and then we have to look at health, which we did kind of touch on as far as resources were concerned. So if you have physical and mental health issues, then you have to be able to work around those. And as I said, sometimes they can derail you quite significantly, whether it's physical and, you have some kind of mobility issue, or something where you shouldn't be picking up certain things. So I'm not allowed to pick up anything more than 10 kilos. I'm not allowed to do it, because if I do, it puts too much strain on my back, and when my back sometimes pops back, it may not, if I pick up anything too heavy, it may not come back from that. So I'm not allowed to pick up anything bigger than 10 kilos. That means that any heavy lifting jobs, or most heavy lifting jobs, I have to wait until Tani gets home. Is it something that I can wait for that? I can't always wait for that. So, then I find myself doing things like dragging big boxes across the floor, because the deliveries arrived while he's at work and he won't be home for 4 hours. And if I leave it outside, the chances are that someone's going to see it and go, oh, look, it's a box, So, I'd rather get it inside so people don't get too curious. So just get it in. Or sometimes the delivery guy is nice enough when he sees that I'm in a bit of a state, and turning up at the door with a stick, and he'll go, do you want me to bring it in for you? So I'm very lucky in those ways. We've got some really nice drivers around here, so they're usually pretty good. Hubby can't lift more than 10 pounds either. Yeah. So, these are all things to consider. If you have issues with lifting, is it going to be better for you to get smaller bags of compost or manure or whatever than buying a ton bag? Are you going to be able to deal with that ton bag, or are you only able to deal with a 50-litre bag or a 100-litre bag or something like that? Or are you going to have to get help, to come and do these things? Because they're all considerations that everybody needs to make. What about the equipment that you use? Is it very heavy? Are you going to have to get someone to bring it down for you because you're planning on using it that day, bringing it out where you can use it? Or is it something that you can keep in a space where you can use it every day and not have to worry about things? I'm not supposed to lift any more than 5 kilo due to compressed discs and arthritis in my back, as well as having vertigo. Exactly. Rochelle! So these are very legitimate considerations to make, okay? What you do find, though, is that as you go on and you start doing things, that does end up strengthening up the muscles around places that, are a little bit more fragile than others, and it can help you to be able to do things a little bit better than you thought you could. That doesn't mean push it. But if you have got jobs that are going to require someone to come in and help, then you need to be able to do that. And you need to not feel guilty for asking. You may be able to barter your time for doing something else. They might not be able to make cakes. You might be able to make cakes. Offer them cake. Pay for them with cake. The amount of jobs that I've had done for me, all I've had to do is make a chocolate cake. Seriously, I can't even tell you. When the kids were little, and even now, I have paid for things needing to be done by making cake. You know, I hate having to ask too, but sometimes you just got to push past that pride and just go, do you know what? I need this help. Otherwise, it's never going to get done. You know, and find someone who can help. You know, you might be able to offer your time to do something that you're good at. You know, that's cool. Not everyone's going to offer, but they might be happy to say yes to you if you ask. And by not asking, doesn't give them that opportunity. It's a 50-50 crapshoot. You know, they'll either say yes or they'll say no, but you got a better chance of them saying yes if you ask them than if you don't ask them, because if you don't ask them, then the answer is 100% no. Do you know what I mean? Okay, so better to take a chance on getting a yes than not doing that. Yeah, so looking at your capabilities is really, really important. You've got to look at those, you know, in all levels. The next part, I just need a drinky. That sun's about to get really, really bright. I'm really hoping it's not going to come right into my face. Okay. You need to really, 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 and I know we discussed this right at the beginning of the series, but you really need to just find out what the laws, bylaws, and local laws and stuff, whether they're federal, state, local, national, they could be just town bylaws, but you need to look at what all the rules are, whether you're allowed to have animals on your property. It may even be down to your landlord, it could be down to your landlord even. It could be down to other town ordinances, because what's all right in your town may not be all right in somebody else's. So, if you have got enough space and you think you might be wanting to have like animals, you need to find out what you're allowed and what you're not, because otherwise they can come in and they can take them away, and they can do it. There is only one loophole that I found on this, and that's if you register the animal as a companion animal, but that means that you can't eat them. Okay? You're not allowed to eat a companion animal. So then you'd have to keep them forever and ever and ever. So, but yeah, look at your local laws, your bylaws, your local government, your wider government, your national government. See what's allowed, what's not. Make sure that you have copies of these in hard copy. Print them all off so that if anyone comes to your door, you can go, according to this, you're wrong. You can eat their eggs. You can eat their eggs, but you cannot eat the animal if it's a companion. Yeah. And you will usually find that they'll only let you have one if it's a companion, and if it's against their urban planning kind of thing. But most places allow you to have up to 4 chickens in an urban environment in this country, in the UK. I can't speak to Canada, can't speak to the US. Australia is the same, though. I'm pretty sure it's up to it's either 4 or 6, depending on where you are and the size of your garden. But no roosters. Not allowed roosters. Not in an urban environment. That tends to put the kibosh on a lot of things. It may even be that where you live, you're not allowed to have edible gardens in your front yard. So that might take half your growing space away. It might take half your growing space away because you're not allowed to have a veg garden in your front yard. A lot of places don't really worry about it. It usually tends to be places that are gated community type things, or where there's a housing association and stuff like that. So just check what their rules are and work within them. If you can find a loophole, use it, skip with it, do whatever you need to do. You're not allowed to have chickens? Oh, Annie, that's really sad. Our town is loud, but we don't have room. If I planted my garden in my front yard, the produce would just get stolen. Hey, Tammy. Welcome in, Mountain Grandma. Jamie, I'm fortunate we own part of 2 acres with my brother-in-law. Yeah, that is very fortunate. But, there's a lot of us who are trying to do the best that we can with what we have, and we are living in an urban environment. And I'm just trying to encourage people with that, The dream is always to have a piece of property and be living in the country. But until then, this is our classroom, and making the most of it and increasing our skills and doing all of that is a really, really important thing for all of us. Hey, Rebecca, how are you, darling? It's good to see you. So check your laws in your local area. All right. Now, this is one I want you guys to remember because it's very, very important. You can plan out your space however you want, right? But let me tell you this. It's never as big as you think it is. It's never as big as you think it is. We've measured us. We've measured it and measured it and measured it. We've measured it every foot along the wall for the width and the length, and it's still smaller than we kept thinking that it was. Because once you start to put things in there, and once you start to place your beds and place your garden furniture and do all of those things and put in the places that you want to, the things that you want to put in, you're going to find that it gets very, very small, very, very fast, especially in an urban garden. Very small, very fast. And you're just like, what? Our greenhouse has taken up a lot more room than we were expecting it to. So we have to change the plans that we had for out the back. We are still going to do those plans, but they're not going to be exactly as they were. We've also discovered that the wall is on a lean. There is an angle. And it's either the house or the wall is on an angle from each other. And if you have a look in the video where I actually showed some of the inside of the greenhouse, you'll see that the flagstones, and that's the paving stones underneath, although they are lined up perfectly with the wall, and so is the greenhouse, by the way, they go off on a side note, except they're all square. They're all square. But there is like a 30-degree angle there. And we're not quite sure where it's come from. We don't know where it's come from. It doesn't make sense. Yes, until you have to buy soil, and then it's much bigger than you think it is. Sometimes. But that is something that you need to take into consideration, that the space that you think you have may be bigger or smaller than you expected. So if it's smaller than you expected, you're going to have to change your plans and try and compact things, or you might have to let things go, The other thing is that, if it's a bit bigger, well, whoopee, then you've got some more space that you can do things with, and you may be able to do things that you weren't expecting to be able to. But you don't want to have to do it all at once either, because it is a process. It really, really is a process. And the biggest part the biggest reality of urban homesteading is the ever-evolving process. And the ever-evolving process is that every day is different. Every day is a learning day. You're never going to do the same thing twice. Not in the same way. You think you are, but you're really not. Because you might be watering the garden every day at the same time, but those plants are becoming to doing different things. And then you're watching them, and then you being able to see what they're doing. And you're watching them grow over time. It's still going to be different every single day, especially in peak growing time. Things may grow faster than you think. You may need to jump in there while you're doing the watering to stop them from growing so fast. If that means putting a shade cloth over something, if that means plucking flowers off potatoes because that makes the roots grow faster, anything like that. Really important stuff. You might suddenly realize that one of your plants is infected with aphids, or that you have a very unfriendly rat that's running around the place and is starting to dig up some of your seeds and things. That's not fun either. So, these are all things. It's an ever-evolving process. You are always learning. You are always gaining new skills. And even if you think that you're only going to use what you have right now, you're still going to be learning as you go. Because if you're not learning as you go, then something is slightly wrong. Every time we cook something, it cooks slightly different. It never comes out the same exactly every single time. Even when I was in catering, nothing came out the same every single time. It all came out slightly different every single time. Whether that was slightly different color on the cake, slightly different texture crumb, and it could be something as small as a change in humidity. It could be 2 degrees hotter today than it was yesterday. So the butter's melted more. So, of course, your pastry is going to be more biscuity than it is going to be pastry-like. Things like that is always something you're going to be learning as you go, and your skills are always going to be increasing as you go. Everything is evolving in this process, as it should do. Yes, always learning. That makes gardening fun. Yep, as I mentioned earlier, if on a budget, you will have to save up to buy things. Absolutely. Some days you cook with hate, not love. There is that too. It could be completely a mood thing. If you really don't want to do it because you have just had one shocking day, and the last thing you want to do, because everyone behind you is bitching and complaining that they're hungry and what are we having, and I don't like this and I don't like that and I don't like something else, yet you've still got to go in there and make a meal and put it on the table and continue to listen to that bitching until you turn around and lose your mind, it's not going to come out the way that it normally does. Let's be completely honest here. You're probably better off running down the road to KFC, grabbing a bucket of chicken, throwing it at them, going back to bed, and going with your book and your brew and going and sitting somewhere quiet for a bit. Because sometimes you got to do it. Not all the time. We're not talking about all the time. But sometimes you've just got to do that. Because if it does get on top of you, you're no good to you. You're no good to anybody else, because that's when mistakes happen and that's when accidents happen. Yes. Tammy's just said, Mum, Grandma's just said, I used to ask my teenager to cook, and if she complained too much, I wouldn't want her to cook for me because I was worried about eating all her negative energy. Yes. We go to the freezer or tacos at that point. Yeah, exactly. Whatever works. I wish my hubby and son would offer to cook once a week. Yeah. Tanny does. We're planning on doing a roast over the weekend because, it's Easter and stuff, and he wants to do a roast on Monday because he's got the day off. So we will work together to create that roast. And that then will be made into other meals during the week, which will probably feed us for the next 3 weeks. So it's all good. Or my hubby hates when people say cooked with love, or the secret ingredient is love. It drives him batty. So I tell him his food is cooked with indifference. That's brilliant. Yep, I'm getting the sun in my eyes. I'm coming around here a bit, guys. Okay, let him get hungry or any. Yeah, I know, right? Yep. Yeah. I have to admit, like, when the kids were little, because we had all the foster kids and stuff, we used to have 2 fridges. One was a kid's fridge, one was a grown-up fridge. They were not allowed to touch the grown-ups fridge because the grown-ups fridge had the stuff for dinner in it and, you know, personal food for us, like bits and pieces that were not for the kids. And the kids could go into their fridge anytime they wanted, and it was an old Coke fridge with glass doors, so they weren't going to be standing there with the door open for hours and hours on end. I cook with indifference a lot, just being honest. Cooking isn't always fun. No, it's not. And I love cooking, but there are some days where you just go, I really can't be asked with this. I really can't. Do you know what I mean? I just don't want to. Why should I have to do this? You know? I just don't want to. You know, you get to that part of the day where it's the last thing you want to do. So when crock pots became a thing, when slow cookers became a thing, I will absolutely tell you right now, it became my best friend. Because when I was doing the breakfast, the main part of dinner, whether it was the sauce for pasta or if it was the base for a stew or a gravy for a roast or something like that, it would go in the breakfast. Well, they wouldn't get it for breakfast. I would make it at the same time as breakfast. It would be sitting there, and then by the time the evening came, it'd pretty much all I'd have to do is just chuck in a few bits and pieces of this and that. So, you know. Hey, Scott, how you doing? It's good to see you, mate. Leftovers are a beautiful thing for the days we really don't want to cook. Exactly. Thankfully, hubby does most of the meat. He's obsessed with his sous vide smoker barbecue. Wow. Wow. I have to admit, I've never got my head around a sous vide. Ever. Ever. Many times people have tried to teach me how to use it and get my head around it. But I never got my head around it. I couldn't get my head over the whole, but isn't that just posh boil in the bag? Do you know what I mean? It's like my brain just could not get past that whole, oh, well, but isn't it just slowly boiled in the bag stuff? What I hate is when I'm glad to hear it, Scott. What I hate is when I cook something nice but simple. The 2 males in my life say, don't feel like that, then will make myself some toast. I get so annoyed. Do you know what? That's their loss. That's their loss, love. Honestly, that's their loss. They don't want to eat it. That's on them. Oh, Tony, dude, it's just good to see you, mate. It's all good. It's fine. It's all good. Yeah, it's all good. I mean, I did send you a link if you want it. It's all up to you. But yeah, set it and forget it. There's no such thing when you're doing urban homesteading or you're going into a self-sufficient life, because there's always something that you have to think about. Okay, so whether you're thinking about, okay, so we're just about, say for example, you've just about got through all the kitchen roll. Are you going to start looking at replacing those with cloths, washable cloths rather than kitchen roll? Are you going to be, you're almost to the end of the plastic wrap that you have. Are you going to be able to find lids for your containers instead? Are you going to get silicone lids? Are you going to do things like maybe make some wax wraps, that kind of thing, to replace the whole cling film thing, like plastic wrap thing, and foil, over use of foil? Are you going to find different ways to do that? And you're looking at these things and you kind of thinking, well, maybe that's something that I need to look at next, or maybe that's something I need to look at doing next. And then you're looking at, the garden, all of a sudden there's this strange plant that's grown up in the middle of it. You need to go and take it out. Do you need to take it out, or are you going to leave it, see what happens with it? It could be something insane, it could be something that's just a volunteer that you never thought was there, or it could indeed be a weed that you might want to get rid of. But, weeds grow for a reason. And are they actually going to help you or hinder you? And are they worth taking out, or do you want to sort it all out once that harvest of that bed comes through? These are all things that you need to think about. And it's not like set it and forget it. Very few jobs are set it and forget it. Because even the beds that Tanya has just put so much hard work into over the last week or so in the greenhouse, eventually they're going to have to be replaced because they're wood. Now, we bought the cheapest wood we could find, but does that mean that in 5 years' time we won't have to replace it? No. And we probably will have to replace it in 5 years' time. And by then it could be 5 times more expensive. So we need to look at an alternative, We may not even be here in 5 years' time. We may be somewhere else. So we don't know. But these are all things. It's all, doing what you can right now, where you are, as you can, with what you have, with your resources that are available, with what you can do yourself, and making sure that you're not doing anything that you might get in trouble for, because the last thing you want is to be underneath anybody's radar, So look, Janine says she cooked a shin of beef stew in hay box last weekend. Beautiful and energy saving. Oh, well done. I still have to do that series. I really do need to do the hay box series. I really do. Hey, Ginger, how you doing, Ninja? It's good to see you. It's really good to see you, darling. Welcome in. So there we go, guys. What do you reckon? Do you have any questions? Now, we've got 2 more weeks of this series to go. And in week 12, I would like to have a Ask Me Anything session. Okay? So anything to do with the series, anything to do with the homesteading, the urban homesteading, anything like that at all. So please do send me your questions, whether you send them to me here, underneath here, leave a comment underneath. That would be awesome. Email me your comments or your questions. You can Instagram me your questions. You can Facebook me your questions. I don't care. You can Skype me your questions. Any of those things, I would be more than happy to answer them. The more questions we have, the better sessions we're going to get. And then we're going to have a couple of weeks off, probably about a month off from the Friday. And then we're going to go into season 3 of the Budgeting Lives, which I will tell you more about on episode 12. But we're only on episode 10. So episode 11, I want you to pick. I want you guys to pick. What do you want to know more about when it comes down to urban homesteading? Are we going to do an episode on animals? Because so far we haven't touched at all on animals. And if we are going to do animals, I want to have someone up here who has animals in an urban setting. So I'm going to have to try and track someone down who does that, who can be here at this time to do that. So again, if you are someone who it fits that description, do let me know in the comments below, or get hold of me, email me, whatever. All my social media is down below in the description. But it would be great to talk to someone who does raise animals in an urban environment, or has done and is now on a homestead themselves. Okay, so if you are actually on a homestead, but you have had a self-sufficient urban homesteady life in an urban environment, please do let me know, and I would love to have you up on panel next week. Next week, where we'll do animals. I'm just writing it down so I don't forget, because otherwise I'll be asking you guys, going, what were we going to talk about this week? Oh, look out. Hang on. Hey, Scooby, how you doing?
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing
Sorry.
good. I'm trying not to get blinded by this.
I see that.
Oh. Everyone seems to like the idea of the animal thing for next week, which is really, really cool.
There you go. That's a good idea.
So we are going to touch on animals in the urban environment. Dale says, guess we're a little too country for that. Well, you never know. It depends who we can find. I'm happy to get who I can get,
If I could take just a second, I wasn't trying to be rude. I've been trying to hop on. I wanted to say hi to Jasper Pudding Face, 9 Acre Family Farms, Not For Nothing Homestead. I did see all you guys saying hi. I just was trying to get in here. So,
yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. So, it's all good. It's all good. Now, Mr. Tony, you are an urban homesteader of sorts, yes? Look out.
somebody's walking by and Luna's barking, so hold on just a second.
Okay. Annette, that's awesome, sweetheart. It'd be really, started saving to eventually buy a small homestead in the country. Good for you, sweetie. Good for you. Go for it. Go for it. That's absolutely awesome. Yep.
Okay, there might be a lingering bark or two, but go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, Mr. Tony.
Yes.
So, you are on the road to self-sufficiency and urban homesteading.
Yes.
Yes. As we all are. We're on the road to it.
Yes.
Yeah. So, what was your first steps to that?
Number one was realizing I wanted to do it, and number two was the overwhelming of where do I start.
Yeah.
That was the hardest part.
Mm-hmm.
Once we decided to do that, things just started falling into place. You complete one task, and then you think of what is the next thing to do, and so we've evolved from nothing, literally, to where we are going to start dehydrating next week, I think it is. I now pressure can, which I hadn't done before. We're doing gardening now. So small steps, little things, little here. Once you get one thing figured out, then move into the next thing. Now, we're a little different because we don't own our property.
Yeah.
So we can only do so many things, and we live right in the middle of town. So there are a lot of rules that control what you can do as well.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But the point behind that is you can do it wherever you're at.
Yes. Because every little bit is that little step further, is that little step closer,
Yeah.
Even if it is just replacing disposables with reusables,
Yes.
And that's just one part of it, one very small part of it, but it can have a huge impact on your outgoings, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, Gail says I need to turn my phone. Sorry about that. There you go.
I pop in unexpected streams. Yeah. Annie says she's going to go for it. Hubby not so keen, but I'm determined to make it happen. You go for it, honey. Yep, you go for it. Absolutely.
You do what you can do. You do what you are able to do. And in my case, which I'm sure it is with everybody else, me and Patty just do what we can. If we can't get
Yeah.
to it one day, we get to it the next day.
Yeah. And that's the really important part, is also not feeling guilty about that.
Right.
Not beating yourself up for it, because tomorrow is always another day.
Right.
You know?
I have to take care of one thing and I'll come right back. Hold on.
Okay.
Sorry.
Is you don't beat yourself up for the things you can't do. You build yourself up by the things that you can do. And you applaud yourself for the things that you have done. Don't beat yourself up for the things that you haven't got to that day, because tomorrow's another day. And as long as no one's life's at risk, what's the big deal? You know? And he says, you may end up husbandless. Well, you know, things happen for a reason, you know? Things can happen for a reason. So, you know, all up to you, babe. All up to you. You know, how important is your dream? So, yeah. My brain's gone on slow. So, yeah, you have to celebrate your wins. It's very, very important to celebrate your wins. I mean, like, I make a list for myself every single day. And it usually has 4 or 5 things on it that I need to do. Chances are, on a good day, I might get through all of them. Or I might get through 4 or 5 of them. 4 out of 5 of them. On a not so great day, I might get out of 3 or, 3 out of them. And on a really bad day, I might not even get one of them done. But can I beat myself up for it? No. Why? Because it is just the nature of life. And life comes first. It doesn't matter what you're doing, but life always comes first.
Yes.
You know?
That's a struggle, especially if you're doing YouTube, because you feel like you're committed.
Yeah.
You feel like you have things you have to get done.
Yeah.
Well, the same thought process works when you're homesteading. Works both ways. So
yeah,
you have to do what you can do. You have to do what you're allowed to do. And
yeah,
again, just like you said, don't beat yourself up. Just move to
no,
the next day, pick up the pieces, and you go about what you're doing.
yeah, that's it. You know, if you don't get your tomatoes in this week, get them in next week. You know, if you can't do it this week, do it next week. If you need help getting them in because you're that worried, get the help. Take the help. You know? Suburban Hillbilly says she's an OCD list maker. Yeah, I'm an OCD list maker. I just don't get it all done.
I'm a list maker, and I just don't get it all done. So it's not OCD, my friend.
No.
We all do it, and we don't realize it.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
at least
I mean,
most of us.
I look at the list sometimes, and I just think, what was I thinking?
Yes.
You're an idiot. You know?
Yes. Well, and I'll give you an example, but because there are some rewards to that, because I do take what you're saying, but there is a back to the evolution, ever evolving thing. Okay.
Yeah.
When I started gardening gardening, we got 4 big, huge 4x8 raised bed
Yeah.
boxes, which everybody has seen in my videos. Okay,
Yeah.
I got them all out, got the dirt in there, and then I just stared at them, and I'm like, "What did I just get myself into?"
Mm,
Didn't have a plan. Didn't have an I had ideas, but I had no idea what should plant together, what shouldn't. You know,
exactly.
and I'll be honest with you, if I had had my way of doing it, I would have stuck tomatoes, onions, turnips, potatoes, strawberries, and everything in boxes all together, multiply all over. But I stopped. I took the time. I talked with you. I talked with other people, got a plan together. So, yes, it was overwhelming at first. Yes, it was, what did I get myself into? But if you just stop, think about it, maybe reach out and get some help, maybe
Yeah.
talk to somebody, it's not that big of a deal, really.
No. No.
So,
Yeah. A lot of the things that we start off with for the very first time, you find that we've got quite a long list of people that we can call up and go, okay, so I'm doing this thing. I need your help.
yeah.
And we just help each other out, you know?
Yep.
Yeah. I mean,
Sorry.
sorry.
No. And that's the best thing, is reaching out and getting help, because there are a ton of people
Yeah.
in this community that are willing to help. You just got to ask the question.
Yes. But the other part of that as well is you cannot be 100% self-sufficient, because you need other people and their skills to help you improve yours.
Yes. Yes.
That complement yours, you know, and that can help you improve yours, that can complement yours, that can fill in the gaps where yours are.
Right.
You know, you cannot expect to be 100% self-sufficient. You can't.
No. Even if you could theoretically be 100% sufficient, very few people are.
Yeah. And very few people are mentally capable of being on their own 100% of the time for the rest of their life.
Mm-hmm.
They can't do it, because we are not built to be hermits.
No.
We're not built to be on our own. We're meant to have community and family and people around us,
Right.
people who complement who we are.
Yep.
You know, that is what we're built for. So to say that you can be 100% self-sufficient is not necessarily true.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree. 100%.
Yeah. Okay, so what we got? Gosh.
My chat kind of like was there, and then half of it disappeared.
Yeah, there we go. Annie says, love this whole community. We are all family. Yes.
Yes.
What was that? That's my pudding faces put one up and it's disappeared. Was that?
I know, and now it comes back.
I've got a list? Yeah. That's okay, Ginger. It's all good, darling.
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
I got in here late, and I'm not trying to make you repeat things, but I do think the biggest thing is take it one step at a time.
Yes.
Don't think because you visit one thing once it's good and done for the year, because it's going to be an ever-going process.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to take steps out of your comfort zone.
Yes.
But don't make it something that's going to cripple you financially, physically, or emotionally either.
Yes.
Do things within your means. Take little steps. Learn one thing, move on to the next thing. Learn that thing, move on to another thing.
Yeah. What he's saying right there. Suburban Hillbilly says, I have a very bad habit of thinking I can do more in a day than physically possible. Yeah. Yep. Okay. So that is something that happens to people who end up physically less able than they are used to being.
Yes.
If you end up with being diagnosed with something like ME or fibromyalgia, or you end up with a back injury or hip injury or arthritis or stuff like that, that literally can affect you overnight. Yeah. And you think, well, 5 years ago, I could do this standing on my head with one hand tied behind my back, hopping on one foot. You know, now it's taking me 4 days to do it. Yeah, yeah. But now it's taking me 4 days to do it. And it's so frustrating. But you know what?
Well,
You've still done it. Yes, it's taking you 4 days, but yes, you've still done it. So it's still okay.
right.
But don't beat yourself up because it's not if it's taking you longer than it was.
Yep.
Allow for that when you do your to-do list. This is why I say 1 job a day. 1 job a day.
I think
I was trying to do one thing a day.
your mini series of doing one thing a day was one of
Yeah.
the best things put out there, because I think it gives people hope that you don't have to do 25,000 things in a day. Now, we all have our normal things. You got to
Yeah.
get kids off, you got to make dinner, you got to clean the house, there are things you're going to have to do. But
Absolutely.
in regards to a list or homesteading or whatever it may be, do just what you can. And if you don't get to it, move to the next day and pick up where you left off.
Yeah.
Prime example, I was sitting there talking with you late last night, you and Dale.
Mm-hmm.
Went to bed just fine. Middle of the night, I rolled over and my back went out.
Oh, dude.
It's just something that happens, and there's nothing I can do about it. So I got up when I could. I come out here. I'd let you know I screwed up, and it was a long night last night. My whole point is you never know what's going to happen. So just
Exactly.
do what you can, when you can do it, and how you can do it.
I mean, we have spoken first thing in the morning, and you've seen the state that I was in because I've woken up on my back when it was in full spasm. And I've had to literally crawl out of bed to get to the office to take meds. But I'm talking to you because it's helping distract me from the pain I'm in so that I can do. But I can barely breathe when that happens.
Right. And that's what's happening to me right now. I've got a pain in my back right now. I feel like somebody's trying to stab me, but I'm doing the best I can.
Oh, yeah.
Most people wouldn't know it. And it's a distraction to help offset what's going on.
Exactly.
This isn't what we're here for to talk about.
No, but it's all part of it at the same time. This is all, we're not all 100% physically. No. We're not all capable of running around like Superman forever. And so even if we are at this point, anything can happen and it can change that overnight. But it's then working around that and not beating yourself up because you're not able to do the 101 things that you could do before. Yes, we may be able to improve our health through, whoop, he's gone. Whoops. But you can't beat yourself up for the things that you can't do either. So Suburban Hillbilly says, that's exactly what happened to me. I could outwork any grown man. I hurt my back and resulted in extreme pain and neuropathy issues. Yeah, I get it.
Sorry.
Better now, Spider-Man.
I hit the wrong button, went to correct it, and I hit the other wrong button. So sorry.
It's all good. It's all good.
I think people just need to take stock in, give yourself some credit. You can do this. It's not that big of a deal. You might do it on a small scale. You might do it on a medium scale. Odds are when you're urban homesteading, there is no large scale because you just don't have the space to do it. Okay.
No, that's it. I mean, there are extreme versions of urban homesteading.
Right.
There is a channel that I have watched in the past where they have an urban homestead and they've got goats and they've got a couple of pigs and they've got all sorts of stuff in their back garden. And I'm sitting there going, but not everyone's able to do that.
No.
But see, the other flip side of that is because they've done that, they can't have a garden.
Right.
Their ability to grow their own food is limited by the fact that they have animals that need the space. So
isn't it funny when you think of that? I can't remember how you just worded it, but it clicked in my head. The ability to grow your own food is limited by your ability to grow your own food. Think of it that way.
Yeah.
space makes a difference. And if you
Yeah.
infiltrate your only space with animals, then where are you going to grow your garden? And vice versa. If you
Yeah.
grow a garden, where are you going to put animals if you're able to?
Exactly. You know, so it's looking at the trade-offs of things like that. And if you're in a little urban environment like we are, where you've just got a little courtyard to work with and a little tiny bit of front yard to work with, you make the best use space you can. There is a channel, if anyone is into urban homesteading and wants to know more about the kind of things that you can do in a very small environment. Number one, there is a small space gardening collaboration going on, but the links up to it, and there is a playlist on my channel. Okay, there are 10 channels involved with this, and each one of us has a very small space that we work with. Okay. Also,
and that's the beauty of it, is that it's not 10 of us doing the same exact thing.
No, everybody's doing something completely and utterly different, you know. And the other one is go and have a look at Spicy Mustache. Okay, now he has a channel, Alessandro. He has a channel both on YouTube and on Instagram. And what he's been able to do in a small London backyard, which is, I think, is not much bigger than mine.
Really?
Is incredible.
That's good.
You know, and when you see these terraced houses that just have a little concrete courtyard in the front, he's made use of that space as well. Okay.
Oh, Suburban Hillbilly said she needs to go. We're sorry.
You take it easy, sweetheart.
Yep.
Our love is with you.
Yep.
Okay.
Wow. That's rough.
Yeah. But yeah, Spicy Mustache is another one to go and watch, because he is incredible what he has just rammed into that space. You know, which is very similar to what I'm looking to do here, is to ram as much as possible into the space that we have. You know? Somebody
once said it was, I want to say it was when I did Jam It Up June last year, and one of the channels, our Hodgepodge Homestead. And I can't remember the guy's name right now, but I went to go see what kind of videos they put out. And the video I clicked on was, I think he joined in Leanne's 5 things we would can, 5 things we wouldn't can again. Yeah. Anyway, so I went through and watched, and he said, I got to answer a question. Or no, I think I was going through other videos he had put out because it intrigued me. So I went and watched a couple, and he made a comment. He was doing a sit and chat thing, and he said, you know, a lot of people ask us, how do you define homesteading?
Yeah.
No, I think it was more, how do you define where you can homestead? That's what it was. And he said, homestead where you want to.
Yeah.
If you're working towards self-sufficiency, if you're working towards being able to grow your own food, preserve your own food, or set up a system that allows you to make sure you're covered where whatever happens, that's homesteading. It doesn't matter if it's on an acre, if it's on an eighth of an acre, if it's on a quarter of a block. It doesn't matter if it's on a cement patio in the back of a townhouse or a condo.
Yeah.
That still is classified homesteading.
It is.
So.
Exactly right. And Ginger's right as well. She says it isn't so hard to judge your own success based on other people's. You have to give yourself some grace and just know you will get it done in your timeline.
Yep.
That, 100% that.
Yep.
You know, that.
The success of your homestead is not based on the success of somebody else's.
No.
It's the success of yours. So if you're putting things off a day or two because you have to, doesn't mean those things are not going to grow when it's time to harvest them.
Yeah.
It just means they're a day off.
Doing something doesn't mean you have to.
Doesn't mean you can either, for that matter.
No. And you can't feel a failure because you don't have the space, the need, or the want to do the same thing as somebody else.
Exactly. Yep.
You know?
100% agree.
You know? So you got to do what you can do. And you've got to allow yourself that time and space and grace to do it. You know? Yep. In your own time. Like I said, it took me 4 years, or actually 5 years now, to be honest, to build up our pantry where it's now starting to rotate.
Excuse me. We started
filling it up?
We started in 2019. I just now completed being able to do pressure canning this year, actually, in all honesty. And dehydrating, I'm just starting this year. So there you go. There's 4 years we've been working at trying to get this done.
Well, that's it. But you just do what you can when you can.
Right. Yep.
You know, if all you can do is pickling and fermenting, just do pickling and fermenting. You know,
my timeline, and I don't have this list written down. My timeline is, I know where, based on where we're at now, what we can do and can't do. I know where we want to be, but there's not an end date. There's not a date it has to be done. These are things I want to attack. It's like I did for my own channel. I did 5 things I wanted to accomplish on my channel. I've got all but one of them already done. And once I start dehydrating, that's my 5th one. My point is I didn't put an end date on any of those. I just said in this year, I wanted to accomplish these things. So
exactly right. See you later, Tammy. Thank you so much for being here, sweetheart. Janine, that channel is called Spicy Mustache. And it's Alessandro, and he is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah. I'm glad you're enjoying it, hon.
Yep.
Yeah. So there we go. Any more words of wisdom that you want to pop out there?
I do, but it has to do with my channel, so I'll wait until you're done because I do want to help. So
right.
I can't think of anything else. I think it's understanding it's an ever-evolving process. Yes. Don't do more than you can do. Don't put so hard expectations on yourself that you can't accomplish what you want to. And just remember, anything towards self-sufficiency is a step in the right direction.
Absolutely right.
There's my words of wisdom.
Okay, so if you want a very quick list of little things that you can do to be more self-sufficient right now and to do urban homesteading if you haven't done it before, I have done a video on this. It is in the series. Just go and check out the playlist, and you'll see all the other things we've been doing. So the first one is growing your own fruit, veg, and herbs, but obviously you do that within what boundaries you have. Preserving your own food. So even if you aren't growing your own food, you can actually preserve your own food. If you have access to farmers markets or to other markets and you're able to buy boxes of fruit and veg in season really cheaply, go and do your own preserving of them. You know, grab what you can from the people who grow it or supplying it and just grab it, you know, and preserve it yourself. At least then you've got something going on, right?
I agree.
Yeah, cooking from scratch. Okay, so, you know, Tanya and I have had to have a chat because obviously he's in between. Well, he's just started. He's now working for the company he was working for from the agency he was working for the company for. So his last pay from his previous company is next week. He doesn't get paid by the new company till the 28th, and he's getting paid from a monthly basis from then on. So he's only going to have 3 weeks' wages on the 28th, maybe even 2. We're not quite sure how the pay works out, but we have to work out that we may now have to live for 2 months on 3 weeks' wages.
Right.
So all of the bills come first, always.
Mm-hmm.
Bills are going to have to come first. Any shopping that we do tomorrow, because we're going to do the shopping tomorrow, will have to last us for the next 6 weeks.
Yep.
You know, it has to. Where there is no choice in this matter, it has to last for the next 6 weeks. But we have to still be careful with what we purchase because we've still got bills coming out.
Yep.
So we have to be very careful. So we've got a bit of a circular argument thing going on here. And the only thing that we can really say is that if we need things during the week, the only things we're going to be getting are bread, milk, and things for Tanny sandwiches if he doesn't have what he wants at that time. So, you know, we've got to make sure, but we do have enough food in the house. We do have enough meals in the house that I've already done that will see us through for at least a month, maybe 2.
Yep.
Without even breaking a sweat at this point, you know. So I'm not really that concerned.
The benefit is you're able to do that because you did these things in advance of when they were needed, not knowing what it was going to be, but you were ready for it. So
exactly right. So we are in a better situation than we would have been, say, 3 years ago.
Right.
Much better situation than we would have been like 3 years ago. And because it's started the growing season, I'm going to put radishes and lettuces out in that greenhouse in the next day or so. And they're going to be already popping up and possibly ready to go by the time he gets paid from his job. He gets his first full pay from his new job. So, you know, we're already able to do these things.
Yep.
You know, don't ever think that you can't do these things. I mean, 6 weeks to go from seed to harvest is a really short thing.
Right.
So it's not something that you can't do. It isn't. And you start to see things straight away, especially at this time of year when you start putting things in. So don't worry about things like that. Cooking from scratch, always important. If you don't know how to cook, there are loads and loads of channels that can teach you how to cook. But please, for the love of God, or goddess, or whoever, for all of them, okay? Please, please, please. There are 1,000,001 TikTok channels that are showing stuff that is not proper cooking, that it's a joke.
Yeah.
These are not cooking channels. They're wasting food. They're showing you bad habits. It's not stuff that's going to help you. Get yourself one good cookbook. One. Now, whether that is, you know, you don't need anything that's over the top. It doesn't have to be an expensive one. It doesn't have to be a brand new one with some celebrity chef on it. In fact, I would suggest not to do that. I would suggest going down to a secondhand bookshop or charity shop or something like that, having a look on there for these kinds of books. Because in here, this little book that cost me all of £1, right? It has everything that you could possibly need in it. It's got soup, savory, salads and cold meats, cheese and egg dishes, rice and pasta, pies and pastry, poultry and game, fish, meat, vegetables, home baking, puddings, fruits, jams, pickles, preserves. It's got everything
all inclusive
you need in there. Plus, how to make your own plonk.
Yep. Which I don't know what is, but that's cool.
Yeah, wine, beer, and pop.
Oh.
So making your own soda. So it's probably ginger beer, knowing that. But they're very basic recipes. They don't go into major detail. They just tell you how to do it. And that's all you want.
Yeah.
You know?
See that.
So you may need to do some weight measurement conversions. Yeah, just go on to Google.
Yep.
Google has a conversion. It's fine. And it will be really easy to do. Okay, so just a cheap little book like this will see you right to start off anything. Other than that, there's a lot of us that have got a lot of very, very simple recipes out there that you can go for. You know, you want to learn how to make bread, go and see the Mennonite farmhouse. Go and talk to them over at the Mennonite farmhouse. Yep. There is nothing that woman doesn't know how about making bread. You know, it's, you know, yes, the library's a good resource too. The problem is that they're closing them left, right, and centre. So that's why I'm just saying that's an option.
I think
yeah. Over here we have Mrs. Beaton's. You can get a Mrs. Beaton's.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think the important thing is to get a book that's inclusive of all things. Don't
Yeah.
get a book that's just on cooking hamburgers,
Yeah.
because then you're going to need another book for how to cook this and how to cook that. You want
Yeah.
a book that's going to well round your kitchen and be able to give you basic skills for basic things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rochelle says, I hate watching a cooking video with someone with no knife skills. Yeah, I'm the same. I am the same. When they cut an onion with a tiny little knife, yeah, I go bananas as well, because I prefer to have my fingers on my hands, personally intact. But yeah, so learning to scratch cook, also save your seeds. If you have something that's gone to seed that year, save some of your peas to go to seed so you can grow them for next year. Your radishes, let them go, so that you get some pods. I mean, you can get two crops then, because you can actually eat the pods when they're very small and green, which I always say that, because it was one of my favorite things in the world. But you also get new seeds for next year.
Yep.
This is stuff to remember. Let at least one thing go to seed, so you're saving your seeds every year. Compost. Do your own compost. Very, very simple to set up a compost system. Tony O'Neill over at Simplified Gardening, there is nothing that man doesn't know about compost. Same with Scott over at Cuckoo Cottage. They are people that, if you want to know about compost, you go and see them.
Cool.
Choosing reusables. Like I said, start getting rid of the disposables and start getting reusables. Things like your cling wrap, your plastic wraps and stuff like that, plastic bags, start replacing them with reusable stuff. It's the little things that count at the end of the day.
Yep.
Raise chickens if you can. Up to you. That's up to your city ordinances or your town ordinances or whatever is allowed. You might be allowed quail if you're not allowed chickens. Because the chicken thing, it might be because of the noise. Because female chickens can be just as noisy as a rooster. You give them half a chance. But quail are really quiet. You can keep them in a rabbit hutch. They're very, very small, so you don't need to worry about them so much. So you may want to do that, but we'll look at that next week. This list says keep bees in an urban environment. It's not as likely that you'll be able to do that unless you have an allotment. And you will have to get permission from the allotment committee to keep bees. They may not let you. Weird but true. They may not let you. Some won't. Keep livestock if you've got the room. Hunt or fish if you have the opportunity. Fishing is more of an opportunity here than hunting. You have to have a lot of money to go hunting here. Foraging for food. If you know what you're looking for, things like blackberries that come out at that time of the year, wild plums, hazelnuts, all of these things grow in the hedgerows. Grab what you can. I've even seen hops in the hedgerows.
Right.
So you can collect your own hops. Collecting rainwater. If you're going to have a garden, you want to collect rainwater. Stick one of your downpipes in your house into a big butt.
Yep.
Air dry clothes rather than using your dryer. Obviously, it's not so easy when you're living in a place like this where, in the winter. But during the summer, what's wrong with, air drying your clothes? DIY everything if you have the opportunity. Basic skills, really important when it comes down to like sewing and mending and knitting and woodworking and stuff like that, but it's just basic. You don't need to be fancy. You don't need to be churning out Queen Anne chairs and stuff like this. I'm just talking about knocking a few nails into something to make a box, if that's what you need. There's nothing major. thinking about alternative energy, if you have the opportunity to do that, if you have the money to do it, if there are, look into whether there are grants available for it in your area. If you live in a council house here in the UK and you are looking at solar energy for your house to help offset that electricity costs, go and talk to your local council and your housing authority, because the chances are that they have grants available for that, so that, you know, because that's a good thing. Yeah, so there you go. That's pretty much it. Laundry lines aren't allowed here? What? Janine says, I've Edwardian home skills, books, recipes, home management, repairing, and lots more. Yeah, me too. I've got a few of them. They're sitting right here, actually. I was making tea and stopped. I just asked Joey 2 days ago to build a clothesline for us.
Yep.
There you go.
I never realized until just now.
Yeah.
Don't ask me why, but just now. My slogan on my channel is be smart, think ahead, cook with ease, and preserve. And those 4 things really ring true.
Yes.
To how to approach homesteading.
Yeah. It is.
Sorry, epiphany, light bulb.
It is true. It is absolutely true, you know?
Yeah.
So, anywho, so next week we will be here. I will see if I can press gang some lovely people who live in an urban environment or have lived in an urban environment with aminals. I have done, so I'm quite happy to talk on that. But I've done it in Australia. I haven't done it here. I've done it in Australia. So, you know, a little bit different rules. But the basic stuff is the same.
Right.
So we can talk about that next week. I can't tell you who the guest is going to be because I don't know. I don't know. It's a surprise to me too. So, and don't forget that the week afterwards, I'm going to be answering your questions. So if you have questions about urban homesteading, send me your question down to my email below or to any of my social media, which is down below in the description. And yeah, I will do my best to answer as many as possible, or have people who might be able to answer them as well. Okay, depending on the question. So there we go. Now, as you guys know, this whole series is going to be put into a printable booklet, PDF booklet, that will be available at the end of May on Etsy. Now, the proceeds from that will be going to buy compost pots and seeds so that I can create seedlings, veg seedlings, edible seedlings, for a group here in York called Edible York that takes veg seedlings to the local food banks for people who might want to actually be able to start growing their own food as a matter of food security for them. Okay, so that's where the proceeds from that will be. It will be on my Etsy account, and anything that I sell from my Etsy account, that is where the money goes to at this point. It does not go in my little pocket. It goes towards this because that is a love project of mine that I absolutely adore. Obviously, if you're a Patreon, get a sheet each week for free. I am planning on putting these out. I am very, very sorry. We can this week. So I just want to say thank you to Tony for joining me.
Sorry, I'm late.
And to everybody in chat for being here too, because you're awesome. And thank you. And we will see you next week. Or actually, I will see you tomorrow morning. If you're in the UK, tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. over on Mr. Kettle Kitchen's channel. Or
that's right.
Or what time in your zone?
9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 12 Eastern Standard Time.
Yes.
And you should tell them what the topic's going to be.
It's about addiction.
Yes.
Talking about addiction, but not any old addiction. No. Seed addiction.
Seed and plant addiction. Yes.
Seed addiction, gardening addiction.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh, yes. So
Yep.
it's about gardening addiction. So if you are around about 5 a.m. BST or 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, that is where you'll find us over on Mr. Kettle Kitchen's channel over there. There. Oh no, we don't want to cure that. We're not talking about curing that.
It's not an intervention. It's a
No, it's not an intervention. It's
how do
sharing
we
love.
become
That's what it's
enablers
all
of
about.
that?
Oh my goodness. Janine, that's awesome, darling. Because I know some days it can be really hard to get out the front door. I know that, but at least you do have the back, and that's important. Yeah. Glad you've enjoyed it, Annie. So we will see you later. Have a really, really awesome rest of your day.
Bye, guys.
Bye.